We're recording.
Cool.
Right.
Back to, after we've had a bit of a break.
Yes.
So we'll have forgotten everything we said and say all the same things.
Yeah.
Probably. But we're back to Carlo Scarpa. I'm George Gingell.
I'm Luke Jones. It's about buildings and cities.
This is about buildings and cities.
We're trying to remember what we've forgotten to do this time. So Carlo Scarpa, worth listening to the earlier episodes first because we talk a little bit more about him, but the Italian mid-century architect.
Some of the earlier projects have got more greens to the meat. This one's like all cake.
This is, yes. There was a famous quotation of his early on that he shocked his contemporaries by saying, all I really want is for a pharaoh to give me lots of money to build a pyramid. And this is in this project, one of the projects we're going to talk about today is the moment where that ambition was achieved. But of course, the 20th century version of a pharaoh is consumer electronics.
Yeah.
CEO,
Magnate.
Yeah.
Well, we can just say what they are. We're going to talk about a shop.
Yes.
And a mortuary complex.
Yes.
From the ridiculous to the sublime, or the sort of... from capitalism of a rather rarefied sort to the repository of the undying soul, or something of that nature.
Yes. They're more alike than you would expect.
I mean, they're both kind of display cases, right?
They are, yeah. And they're both opportunities. You would think that the shop had quite a constrained sort of brief. Normally they are making the floor area work for them, but it's not really that kind of shop. In practice, both of these projects are ones where he was able to just do whatever he wanted, really, and to make the architecture all about this exploration of this very strange, singular vision.
He had a track record of, if you gave him loads of money, he could make something cool.
Yeah.
And so people did just that.
Yes. And, and the results we will see in just a moment. So we're going to talk... I think we're going to finish with the tomb, because
it's a good place to finish.
Good place to end. We're going to start by talking about the shop. The Olivetti shop is lots of people, I guess, maybe won't even know what Olivetti is, but it was one of the big kind of consumer technology brands of the 50s and 60s.
And, 70s and 80s as well.
Yeah. They didn't quite stick the landing into the era of the personal computer.
It got sold, and it, as often happens, the people who took it over didn't really know what to do with it, and screwed it. Yeah,
but famous for a whole series of particularly typewriter designs, but really all kinds of
office equipment.
Yeah,
typewriters, calculators. What they do now is the only thing they stuck in is tills, shop tills.
Ah, right, yeah.
But frankly, they're not that great.
They're not the good ones.
No.
And I think the way to describe this is that it is this experiential marketing? What is the term for this? This is a shop which is not designed to actually sell anything except the brand. Is to magnify the kind of effect of the
It's
brand.
meant to be a kind of marketing. It's like a halo. It's like a prestige project.
Yeah,
showing off.
It's a little bit like the kind of early version of the Apple Store, which obviously they do now actually do massive numbers, but originally
I thought about this. The principle is the same in that it's sort of really swank and they put loads of money into it.
Yeah.
But it's a sort of inversion in that the Apple stores are kind of really boring and minimal and just rich.
Yeah.
And this is really cool and fun.
Yes. And I guess Apple is a little bit totalitarian. There is a kind of Apple design language which is...
It's ironic. The considering the famous 1984 advertisement,
they
have a strangely big brother vibe.
Yeah, but there is a kind of the sort of minimalism, kind of tyranny of good taste thing that goes on with.
Yeah, Olivetti built a whole load of really swank showrooms.
Yeah,
and some of them have got pretty wild design. Multicolored marble pedestals and.
Yeah.
Definitely switching into the world of the groovy.
Yeah.
This is the most famous one.
Yeah.
But if you look up, Olivetti showroom, Negozio
Olivetti.
You'll get other ones coming up as well, which are kind of fun.
Yeah. I guess we just go right into it. So it's not a very big. It's not a very big shop, but it's in a very prestigious location. It's on
You'll have heard of this location.
Piazza San Marco.
It's there.
Yeah, it's in. I think this is the old procuracy. There are these like two big buildings either side of the sort of long thin bit of San Marco.
Yeah, we talked about them back in the day in the Corbusier episode.
Yeah, and they are like
very excited about the grid.
Yeah, because they are like early sort of modular facades.
Yeah.
And they're doing something kind of quite sophisticated, covering over like a whole series of different bits that don't really fit together, and then making them appear in this kind of harmonious, regular grid. Anyway, so it's one of the shops which are in the bottom of that. It has these kind of arcades facing onto the square, and it is like fairly long, fairly like narrow shop on two levels. It backs onto a canal at the back, and then there is like a stair which takes you up into the upper level, which is this sort of long gallery, looking where you can sort of look down into the lower level. And I guess like it's very compressed. It has these different areas where he's done interesting things with the design, and it was for after the demise of Olivetti as a kind of meaningful like concern. It was sold for a bit, and for a while it was doing like tourist hat and sunglasses, and it's now been
I'd love to see the picture.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
They drilled like a few little holes into the marmorino. That kind of thing. But then it's been brought back and restored, and is now run as a kind of quasi museum by the Olivetti.
I think actually by like the Italian National Trust.
Is it? Okay. Yeah.
But I think the foundation maybe gave it, which is the family money.
Yeah.
I think maybe gave it to them, but I can't remember what it's called. It's a 3-letter acronym.
Yeah.
I think.
But it's got, and the good thing is they've like filled it with typewriters again, so you can see like the goods.
Yeah, and adding machines.
And the way that they're meant to be, the way that they're meant to be displayed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, like there's a slight challenge to talking about this one because a lot of it is about here's another strange detail. I guess we could go through the areas and.
I think we could go through the experience of visiting.
Yeah.
I haven't done it.
Yeah.
But I've looked at the plans.
Okay. So.
And the pictures. So you're in the square.
Yeah.
First of all,
you go in.
You go into there's a colonnade around it. The shop takes up 2 bays on a corner.
Yeah.
And actually, it goes over the next shop at the first floor, but you can't really tell that.
Yeah.
It's got an exciting grill when it's closed, which kind of folds into the wall, a kind of lattice
hanging,
of bronze,
Yeah.
which swings and hangs. And then there's a kind of little gap, and then there's a big glass window.
Yeah.
You got any points for that window?
The window is used for the display of typewriters. There are some interesting hovering shelving units, which I guess we can talk about in a minute. You
come in, it's got like at first it's got all the surfaces are really cool. It's got this really cool floor.
Yeah.
Which is a terrazzo consisting of slightly irregular, fairly small squares of red opaque Murano glass.
Yes.
Set into like a white cement with marble chippings, and then that goes on to in the central bit a one with white glass, and then yellow at the back, which looks really cool.
This is like this really feels like it's evoking his kind of Murano glass style days, which often were about using traditional techniques, but with a slightly kind of modern approach. So it's quite perverse. Like terrazzo is meant to be about using all the leftover chips, and here you've got these sort of specially made rectangles that are all.
It's good.
Yeah, it is nice though.
High quality floor finish.
Yeah.
That is one of the highest quality modern floor finishes out there.
Yeah.
Most convincing that I've ever seen.
It's also, there's something peculiar about that experience of entry as well, because it's small and so compressed, but it has what feel like the elements of the lobby of a big 1960s office complex or something like that. The like kind of lobby entrance. There's a reflecting pool.
The design of the whole thing feels like just one enormous lobby.
There's a big bronze sculpture. There is a sort of quasi fountain, very low key. And then there are all of these level changes. There's a big grand stair. You know.
But in like 20 square meters, right?
Yeah, it's very peculiar. And I think maybe we could say like, so when you're in there on the ground floor, you've got these sort of hanging shelves which look out onto the windows. I think we should sort of do a whole thing on the like shelving display paradigm, because it's obviously connected to one of his real hang-ups. Literally,
pun intended.
Pun
yeah.
intended. I don't know. Like, what's going on here? So, to describe what the display looks like,
let's describe that particular one you've got
Yeah.
up in the screen now.
Yeah. So the one of the ones which faces out onto this is the window looking out of the shop. You've got a little veneered panel which the typewriter sits on. Like
That looks like it's like a rosewood veneer.
Yeah, I think it's like rosewood or teak or something. You know, like a.
Oh, I think it might be like rosewood is unobtainable.
Yeah.
This is a now like critically endangered tropical hardwood.
It's very pretty. Yeah.
So pretty. So this is like he's not no critically endangered. I suppose it was probably less critically endangered in the 50s, but still pretty prestige materials.
Yeah. And it is on one side hanging from a like metal rod that comes all the way down from the ceiling. And then on the other side, supported on two, they're kind of like elbows. They're like semi-L-shaped things coming out of the base of the window, of the shop window.
Yeah, so there's a chamfer along the bottom, which is that marble pretending to be concrete?
Oh, I don't know.
It might possibly be concrete, or it could be marble pretending to be concrete.
It's probably marble.
There's no like. If in doubt, something grey in this building is marble.
Yeah.
So that's chamfered at 45 degrees. Coming out from that looks like a little stainless steel foot at 45 degrees to the floor, which then turns into some swanky wood and then angles to bring it to parallel with the floor. And then that stands on some funny little feet supporting this like rosewood veneered tray, which is then suspended on the inside of the room from a polished stainless steel rod coming from the ceiling.
But the key to these is that it's something which feels like it's unsustainably cantilevered out, and then where there's a dramatic moment where it's suspended from what feels like something which is kind of very thin and only just about to bear the weight.
You can almost justify it logically. Go, okay, so there's this passage. As the thing goes around the corner, people are going to look through the window, through the shop window, and they're going to see the swank typewriter facing out. So we don't want to have anything blocking the display of that. We don't want to have it sitting on the ground because we want to show off how cool this shop is, have an unobstructed view.
Yeah.
But this is kind of ridiculous. This is like the most fancy, overdone, sculptural, display tray you've ever seen.
Yeah, and they're all kind of like this. There are lots of different versions. There are other ones in the shop upstairs where they have a leg, but it's a leg which is placed in such a way that it feels unbalanced and would fall over, apart from the fact that it has like a little bronze detail where it's attached to a sort of metal strap running along the wall.
I guess it makes it easy to clean the floor. No trouble lifting anything off to get the hoover around.
Yeah. We could think of all kinds of justifications, but this seems to me to be like the product of a certain kind of like sculptural fascination, or kind of fascination with the play of sort of visible weight and mass, you know.
Also, like convolution of form. Like, okay, this would be we could have it on a plinth, but that's kind of boring. We could hang it, or we could hang it and have it pushing off the wall in this complicated way, and that's kind of more interesting. It's like it's got more things.
Yeah,
it's got these little funny legs coming out of this little chamfered marble thing. It's got more things, and all the things are kind of tactically enjoyable.
Yeah.
People would say haptic
when
I was going to university, which I think means touchy.
Yeah, it's not really touchy, although but you can kind of there's
tectonic.
It's very tectonic. There's an awful lot of things being joined to other things, aren't there? I think there's a bronze actually. I think there's
bronze,
I think there's steel, bronze, veneered wood.
Yeah,
are the different things working there, which I think essentially.
But everything I say, by the way, about materials and stuff, it's just me guessing. So
I think you're normally right about it. But it's I mean, later on, further up, there's a bit where actually part of the gallery is also suspended in the same way.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fractal thing again, isn't it? Yeah. Like the shelves are in this. And then I woke up and I realised I was just in the middle of this giant thing that I was,
Yeah. There's
That's the.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kaiser's the M. Night Shyamalan reveal. You realise that the whole thing is just another big thing of the small thing. It's
just another big. Yeah. Yeah, I think the sense that like the building is like a macrocosm of the display architect thing, which is. Drawing on the kind of mechanical
which
language.
Which also works because there isn't such a jump in scale.
Yeah.
Because it isn't... It's not like the smallest shop, but it's a small shop.
Yeah.
It's a shop based off like double the module of like a tiny craft workshop, which is what they were originally. You know?
There's also something about not wanting things to touch, like on the staircase, they're all separate treads. They're like these massive stone blocks.
The staircase is a real sculptural piece, and it feels in the middle of the plan. It's not quite, but it feels like that. And it's got these big blocks of marble along. Actually, I don't know what they are on that side. I don't think they are just massive blocks of marble.
I think the ones on the side there's some plaster going on.
Yeah. So, but they're like a succession of big, like blocky blocks, tall and thin, like big slabs that have been put, and then hovering steps, which kind of aren't quite stable in their location as they go up. It's not like each tread of this staircase is going up. They feel like they're hovering and they're moving sideways.
Yeah. And then when you see them from the end, actually, they're kind of L-shaped. They're like overlapping each other.
Yeah.
In this but then also spaced off from one another in this very conscious way, which is like accentuated by this big brass spacer, like a massive washer that you can see hidden in the gap.
So the each tread of the staircase is a really big piece of marble, grey marble, that's been polished, and it's been cut so that there's the tread, and then underneath the tread it cuts back a long way, so that each tread is standing quite a long way off the other one, the one below it. There's a big gap, and then there's a big thick back of it.
Yeah.
Which slots them into each other.
It's such a weird language.
That long cantilever of the step is supported with a little bronze or brass thingamajig, like washer thing in the middle of it, which you can see as you look up the staircase. But they mainly hang and feel like they're sliding over each other because they're not quite, particularly at the bottom, not quite in fixed location.
Yeah. It's such a weird element that it sort of feels like... they feel like piano hammers or something.
Yeah.
It's like there's a kind of urban myth that was told to me that he died falling down this staircase, which you could imagine why people would think that because it looks quite dangerous.
It's all shiny. There's no handrails. I mean, he's done a number of dangerous staircases.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
more of that later. Yeah.
His
cliffhanger.
Yeah.
We can just build the staircase motif.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, his place of death is Japan, so he would have had to bounce a long way. It's not really, not really viable. Yeah. And then upstairs, again, like there's this incredible kind of convolution, like compression of what feel like the elements of a much larger space. So there's a sort of gallery that runs all the way around the edges of the space.
So in the middle of the room downstairs, it's double height.
Yeah.
But for the middle, and then running around the sides is the upper story.
And it's like so, but it feels, it feels like that space in the middle has sort of been shrunk down, and it's I don't know how to describe this. Like you can, it's incredibly it's very narrow. Like you could hold hands across the space between the two sides of the gallery. It's really, and
It's all, the scale is domestic.
it's perverse. Like there are lots of perverse things about it. One of the things is that the gallery leads all the way around, and there's a point where you're like right next to another room, but there's no way through to it because that would kind of upset the sort of convoluted space that he's trying to create. It's
He's trying to get as many places as possible out of a small space.
Yeah.
And each of those places has got something going on.
Yeah. Then and they have like a whole nother set of.
The upstairs seems to be lined in like is that teak? Some sort of tropical hardwood. Probably not mahogany.
Yeah, the materiality I think is partly, well, it's certainly evocative of the like grand speedboats that people have there. Like the, if you're, what is it? The water taxis, which are great fun to go on if someone else is paying. They're really kind of amazing. Like I went on one with some friends, and the kind of cabin is all made of that kind of like teak or teak-like wood, but polished to such a high sheen that you can see as you sort of move through the canals. It's like a kind of film strip playing on the top of the boat.
It's really quite unforgiving. Like you'd think, you can just like slap down some material, but you actually have to polish it to like 2000 grit.
It's
to get those really perfect. I mean, certainly over 1,000 to get these really perfect sheets.
Yeah, they have a good life, those guys. The ones that I met, certainly, like there were no restrictions on drinking on the job whatsoever.
I guess the trick is not to go too fast, right?
That sort of upstairs is where you really encounter this like macrocosm, microcosm thing. There's this incredibly sort of over elaborated, I think bronze, but with like brass highlights thing, which seems to be suspending part of the
so it seems like the structure of the gallery is that there's some sort of metal, some sort of steel coming out of the wall, which is on the other end supported from the ceiling by this brass, and then that goes into the floor. Presumably there's something going in the other direction, which in turn holds up the floor. But what you see is like a place where there is a beam in the ceiling, and then this black bronze thing coming down and going into the underside of the gallery. Pretty cool. It's cool when this is a trick that people were using at this time, and I guess I've used since. It's like the structure is hidden behind plaster or whatever, and then it pierces through and then goes down. Or like, the big steel beam goes through and out the outside wall of the building and comes down. And this is a sort of version of that game. They're all pleasurable, aren't they?
Definitely, yeah.
Those maneuvers. I love these windows. So upstairs there are the four. He wasn't allowed to change, obviously, the structure of the building for pretty understandable reasons. It's a world famous monumental landmark. So he got these four upper story windows, which are still inside the gallery, the colonnade.
Yeah,
around
so
the
they're
square.
like looking out into it.
So the outside they're kind of built out as lanterns, and then on the inside he's built another separate window, which are kind of like a fish without the tail.
Kind of eye shape.
Vesca pescis, whatever. Vesica.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mangle. I can't remember words.
They're like
eyes.
They're eyes, but they've also got a kind of grill over them, which I guess, you wouldn't get very much direct sunlight in there anyway, but that gives it the feeling of
it helps break up it means that you're not like looking straight out into. He doesn't like the view to be noisy, and I think if you look straight out, you'd see like tourists taking pictures and
people being
pigeons and mess,
crass.
and looks pretty cool. How was it?
It's very nice, yeah, and it's lovely with all the kind of vintage typewriters in it.
Look at this thing.
Yeah. So we're looking at looking at a picture of the detail. This is the hanging, like beam. What is it? This is the tie which is hanging the gallery.
Yeah.
And the top of it is.
I mean, this is ridiculous. The
bit which is actually doing the structural job is just like a little rod about 18 mil thick or something. Which I guess is meant to feel like it's poking into a sort of hanging rail in the ceiling. Yeah, a bit like
you could roll them along like the shutters of the outside,
like a curtain. Popped up into there, and then it has this absolutely massive kind of keyhole like thing hanging from it. At some point, the whole assemblage is also held together by two big bronze like pins, which are sort of slotted through. I'm not even sure I really understand how all of this.
I don't think
is
like
working.
all of it is superfluous. Like I get the feeling that you could replace that with a 18 mil steel dowel.
Yeah. Well, that's essentially what's doing the job, isn't it? It gives the game away a little bit at the top.
Lol.
Yeah, very peculiar. Very wonderful.
Yeah.
Lots of other.
There's more of this like stone with funny cutouts. There's another bit where it kind of zigs up and down like a zipper. There's bits where it's gilded between, like in Quereli Stampalia.
Yeah, there's a whole sort of side elevation with like opening stone panels and things, which is sort of a bit reminiscent of the like storefront facade from.
There's another grilly water gate at the back.
Yeah. Yes, it's sort of. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I guess it's interesting to think about what does it do for Olivetti as a brand, what does it do to go and look at this as, I guess what it's communicating is, this is like a patron of the arts.
Olivetti were premium typewriters.
Yeah.
They were not commodity typewriters. And their whole thing was they're totally into design. I mean, also it's a family-run business, so they can kind of do whatever they want, and it was making money. This is quite early. This is 56 to 59.
Yeah.
So they were establishing themselves. I mean, it's impressive to think how like fast this stuff gets. They're quite quick out of the gate. I guess if you've got money. If you're making money, you can do all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And because it's quite small, the products are quite small as well, so you can show quite a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's like these typewriters are the typewriters that you will get in the most sophisticated offices. The most sophisticated people, tasteful and successful, use our products. Yeah. Look how stylish and graceful and cultured and yet still fun and interesting you can be with one of these. I think the reason that people often don't do this sort of thing is one, because they may not want to, but two, because they can't justify it. Whereas when it's just a family-run business, they can do it.
He's already decided that he has a kind of philanthropic mission to celebrate great design.
And
I guess partly this is just an excuse to do something really fun.
And it's also like a morale boost for the company. Everyone feels that, like, also, from the inside, you're feeling like it would create a good esprit de corps, the general program of doing everything really well and having all these beautiful designs. The factory is beautiful, the presentation is beautiful. This is not an ordinary industrial concern.
No, well,
this is a mission.
They've got their like special company town as well, don't they?
Yeah.
They had they had a huge amount of architectural
patronage.
Of
very groovy 70s buildings from them. Lots of like pod to like kind of recurring facades and cool 70s high-techy sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think that
So I think this fits into that. But this is the real luxury end.
Yeah.
This isn't functionalism. This is
no.
I mean, there's no opportunity to substitute for an already fairly expensive material, a more expensive and luxurious one.
Yeah.
It's not the teak is laminated. I got the impression that was teak veneered in rosewood.
Yeah, it sounds very plausible.
On the top,
Very plausible.
and all the grey stuff that makes up the walls.
It's marble.
It's not concrete. It's the most concrete-like marble.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's...
You know, sometimes gilded. You know, with gold.
Yeah. Just to add a little bit of...
Yeah. Let's cover all of the steel in bronze.
Yeah.
Such that there's way more bronze than steel. That's sumptuous little thing.
Yeah, it is. It is really rather lovely. Yeah.
I mean, like, there's lots of, like, if you go around luxury places, there's lots of places that are spending this money and not getting this result.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. Because more impressive than the materials is the, like, level of finish and craftsmanship. Everything looks convincingly hand done.
Yeah.
Like, all of the it's got that kind of mise quality that the lines are orthogonal.
Yes.
The decoration is kind of geometric and pseudo functional.
Yeah.
But everything feels like it's had the hand of a craftsman on it rather than I think they're like hand augering out and pegging together all the woodwork.
Yeah.
And I think the stonework that's been like carved and cut by a stonemason just to an extremely high finish. I mean, they'll be using some machine tools and stuff, but this is kind of
it's a real demonstration
luxury
of,
handbag finish.
Yes.
Or
absolutely.
watch.
Yeah.
You know. So we're going to go from one the bought products of the profit of consumer electronics to another one. The Brion Vega company made audiovisual equipment.
Yeah.
Televisions.
They've suffered
hi-fi.
almost exactly the same fate, which is like becoming a company that like does one thing and makes not very much money. They make like reproductions of these weird.
They make reproductions of their high end products, basically.
Yeah. Olivetti stuff is still recognisably really great design, whereas I think Brion Vega stuff is a bit sort of Austin Powers. Actually, I don't think it's part. It hasn't survived the test of time in the same way.
I mean, they're both period. I think Olivetti survives because, like, well, of course, typewriters are of their era. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And they were for offices as well, which I think office design is more kind of stripped back, less playful in general.
Yeah, I guess also it's nice to have like something to kind of humanizing the world of work in some ways. I think it also feels like you can do something a bit more fun with it. Yeah. Like, you've got your beautiful typewriter in its beautiful case and you can kind of take it and work somewhere. Whereas, if it's like, here's the
more expensive television.
Yeah, for the like shag pad.
Yeah.
It's a bit, I don't know. Like you can, in a way, actually, for that you want to strip away all of the fun because it's already a fun object to start with.
It's not like Carlo Scarpa, is it? It's not like in touch with the infinite.
No, very much.
It's in touch with the 70s spaceship.
So this is jewelry. What are the people called? What are their names? I've forgotten. We'll encounter them in the presentation.
Well, this is a mortuary pharaonic tomb complex built by the second generation of the audiovisual industrialist family for the first generation.
Yeah.
Commissioned and built, I think commissioned at the beginning of the 70s or even a little earlier, like the late 60s, and complete around the time of Carlo Scarpa's death.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, it is like the perfect project for him because it's a purely ritual landscape with incredibly modest programmatic demands. with quite a lot of space to play with.
Yeah, almost no. Like the program is to be determined by the architect.
Yeah.
More or less.
I mean, maybe we should say something about it. So, where this is located in, when we talked about the Canova Museum in the earlier episode, that was sort of, you've got into the hills at that point. And this is, I don't know, like 10 or 20 kilometres further south, where you're just in the last bit of the flat plain.
Yeah,
in a kind of small
Valley.
town.
It's kind of between. Well, it's actually outside a village.
Yeah,
It's not in a. This is really genuinely in the countryside.
yeah,
Between like Treviso and Bazzano.
yeah. And they've got like they've got the village cemetery, which is a big rectangle kind of football pitch sized thing.
Yeah, probably smaller than a football pitch.
Yeah, with all your kind of modest tombs next to one another.
Yeah, and then some family tombs around the edge, which are sort of like large garden shed sized white marble numbers with the family name above them.
And then they basically bought
an area almost as big as the entirety of the rest of the cemetery,
but kind of disposed around it on two sides, so it's a sort of L-shaped strip.
I think this is
we're looking
rotated 90 degrees so if the clock moved on 3 hours, we'd be at north.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, the way that's laid out is that it has two entrances. There's an entrance into the kind of one part of the L directly from the graveyard on axis. And there's also an entry kind of directly from outside, which comes into another end. And broadly, the three sort of nodes of that shape, for like either end and the middle point, are the kind of areas of focus where there's a temple, there's a kind of meditation pavilion, there's a grave site for the actual Brion matriarch and patriarch, and there's a chapel which is like a place where you can hold a sort of funeral or memorial service, and there are lots of other bits, but that's the kind of the layout. If
you approach it, the cemetery is in fields on the edge outside of a village.
Yeah.
There's the main cemetery and the new thing. The new bit is surrounded by a like fortress, a bunker like concrete wall.
Yeah.
Which is slanted away, inward towards the inside with these kind of funny bastion-y things coming out of it. So it's kind of raked 45 degrees. And there are mysterious bunker-like, particularly bunker-like from the outside, concrete masses within.
Yeah. They look like
bits of the Atlantic Wall.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Or like,
like Nazi machine gun emplacement thing.
Or kind of phased array radar station, early nuclear. And it sits in cornfields, basically.
Yeah.
And in the distance, there are the mountains.
Yeah.
There's the Alps.
Yeah.
All the foothills of the Alps.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of go around the side, and there's this old, I guess, 19th, early 20th century graveyard, which has got a path down the centre. It's not like an English graveyard. It's not grass. It's the sort of a standard Italian model, kind of hard surface and gravel with lots of graves.
Yeah.
Central path, the family tombs, and in the middle you go straight down, and then there's this concrete mass at the end with a portal into the pharaoh's temple.
Yeah, it's kind of not. One of the things that's quite sort of fun about it is that you have the sort of prosperous, little memorial. What are they like? The sort of little house tombs where you can have a whole sort of
family. They're the family tombs.
The sort of family tombs. All in a little row. There's the
little street of them.
Little street of them, and then kind of poking out, but sort of hovering behind them, is the big concrete mass of the Brion tomb, which is this sort of big. It's like a big submarine has sort of appeared behind them.
Yeah, and as you look down, you see first this really cool tree as well.
Yeah, it's a nice tree.
Carlo Scarpa's good at gardens and planting and stuff, or at least he had someone on. I'm not good enough at that, but it looks cool. It looks like a sort of drapey thing, drapey jungly thing. Submarine bunker emplacement behind it, and then you see through to two intersecting circles in the kind of Venn diagram configuration,
Yeah.
which look through into a garden.
Which are this kind of cosmic motif appearing throughout the sort of ritual landscape.
Yeah, he's used it before.
Yeah. In this case, I think they are possibly symbolic of the couple. It certainly seems to be one of the things that
I'll tell you
talking
something.
about.
They're definitely symbolic of something.
Yes.
They feel like symbols.
There's a blue one and a reddish one.
Could be Mr. and Mrs. Brion.
Yeah.
It could be like heaven and earth.
Yeah.
That middle shape is used for like the incarnation and the creation of the universe in Christian art, isn't it? Like God like pops in between the kind of middle bit, the intersecting bit.
Yeah.
So that's a known symbol. If you look up at those cathedral tympanums or whatever, you'll see Christ on high popping out of one of those shapes, the middle bit. So it's powerfully symbolic.
Yeah.
That's like looking the other way. Yeah, it's kind of fringed in these tiles. One's kind of reddy brown, and one's blue.
Yeah. I'm not sure. So Scarpa in the film suggests that the way that you're meant to enter is first from the existing graveyard.
Yeah, this way.
Yeah.
There is another way. The other way, I think, makes sense if you're having a funeral.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we'll look at them in that order. So if you come in, you sort of get this big double circle window, and you're also inside a sort of covered.
There's a kind of the submarine-y bit is like a little. First, there's like a little edicule, like bit poking out.
Yeah.
There's like a lobby that you go in, which kind of is strong and tall.
Yeah.
It's got some Scarpa-y, concretey shapes.
Yeah.
And then there's a wide, then it becomes wide passage.
Yeah.
Branching off to both sides, with this window in it.
Yeah.
So which is separating you from a kind of garden meditation area with a lily pond. Yes. But in order to actually get there, you have to kind of go down the passage and come round one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. And the lily pond is the meditation pavilion. I guess we could.
This is a profoundly strange object. So in one corner,
imagine a hovering box on 3 very strange legs. And then
isn't there a fourth one at the back?
Oh, maybe there's a fourth one. Okay, and then it's there's this kind of concrete platform underneath, and then you're surrounded by a lily pond, but it's very low. You have to sort of duck to get in.
Yeah,
and there is a kind of cutout where your head could pass under if you're a little bit less tall than I am. But it's So you go down, if you take a right down that passage, you go out, and then there's a little path in this square, out into the middle of this square lily pond full of lilies with the concrete wall all around the outside of it. And there's this big, heavy hovering box on really thin legs. And to make the legs even thinner, they sort of come down, and then it's like, and get cut off, and it's like another leg, really thin leg, has been strapped to it. Yeah, they're joined like side on.
Yeah. In the most precarious way.
It's very peculiar, and it means it's just all it's being supported on is the bolt going through and its resistance to
shear. Yeah.
Such a weird detail.
And it's a big heavy box on top.
Yeah.
And then you sit under this big heavy box, which you have to kind of duck to get into. And I think there's like a little stone seat maybe.
Yeah.
And you contemplate mortality surrounded by lilies.
Yeah, there's another island that you can't get to, which is kind of between you and it. And you're looking down towards the kind of main, the grave of the old couple. And there's this like significant, brass. There's another double circle, but which is embedded. It's made of brass, and it's embedded in the side of the box in such a way that it's a little bit like kind of the tourist binoculars you get on like the top of the kind of sightseeing location.
It's kind of like a bum.
It's like a bum. Yeah, it's like a bum as well. And they're actually too close. You can't really look through them. They're too close together, but they are a kind of. They read like an image of vision, and they're directing you. There's also a slot which is all kind of directing you down to this the main grave bit,
which is at this point an arch. a
Yeah.
low arch,
Looks like-
it's kind of like the hills in the distance.
I guess it is. I mean, to me, it's like it looks a bit like a bridge. It looks a bit like
Like a garden bridge.
or a bit like in miniature, a sort of like the Astrodome or something. It looks like one of those American like covered sports stadiums. It's like, it has that kind of profile, and it's all made of concrete, and it's very sort of grey. It's a very low arch. It's like very sort of flattened one.
So we're in this funny box looking out at this frame view. There's also kind of the view kind of frames the church spire in the distance.
Yeah.
And that's a view they thought was important, obviously, because it's in like Carlo Scarpa uses it in the film as well.
Yes. This film, I think we've probably linked to it before, but it's quite nice in the case of this project in particular because it's showing it on site. So you sort of see.
Although there's no like work going on. It's like they got to a point, everything is completely clear.
Yeah.
But lots of the concrete's there, but the sort of stone hasn't been installed, and there's no water in the ponds and things.
They're not rushing.
No, I don't think they have to run. This is for eternity.
Yeah.
So there's that, but you don't. And am I right in thinking that path, it just goes there, and then you have to retrace your steps?
Yeah, there's no way. That's the kind of end of
that's your
one passageway.
And the other way kind of goes out.
I think we're actually slightly looking at it from the wrong angle in this
picture.
But
it kind of I'm going to kind of ignore those images and do it how I remember from years ago. You kind of go out and you're on this lawn, which has got a water channel, which goes from the lily pond down to this arch, and it goes down, and then it kind of becomes thin and becomes sort of circles and goes down into a sort of round depression in the ground that steps down, over which is built this very elaborated low arch, like a low garden bridge, which then has wings on either side made of that toothed zigzag concrete, which cantilever just above the ground out.
Yeah.
And then in there are these two very elaborate sarcophagi, which sort of sheer towards each other.
They're parallelepipeds, are they not?
Parallelepipeds.
I wonder.
If we've got even a picture of
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. For all of you watching your radio vision.
Yeah, his and hers parallelepiped tombs in black and white marble.
Yeah. Which kind of lean towards each other. And then underneath this roof, it's actually quite brilliantly coloured glass tiles, which feels very like lots of things. A lot of this stuff is evocative in an almost general way.
Yes.
Like, is this a bridge to the afterlife? This bridge, is it the distant hills?
Yeah.
I don't think he was thinking of the Astrodome.
No, but it does look like the Astrodome. I mean, to me, because also, like, to me, it looks like a spaceship has landed on a golf course. Like, it's this very short grass, and then there's this incredible, like, enigmatic, super over-elaborated, very abstract, but also very complicated object.
Yeah.
Which is also hovering. Like, it's almost always hovering.
It's got these weird, these wings that like are like really heavy concrete, cantilever just above the ground.
Yeah.
So it does seem like a sort of spaceship or something.
Yeah.
And then it's got like a clamshell. It's got a mother of pearl underside.
Yeah.
Which could be a reference to, like Galba Placidica tomb. Or with that fantastic glass mosaic ceiling from late antiquity, or just the idea of heaven, like literally like a pharaonic Valley of the King's star roof.
The other thing about it for me is that like a lot of the visual kind of references and evocations are, although they're familiar, they seem very peculiar in this context. Like the glass tiles underneath it are like as jolly as a day at the seaside. They're like really, really bright and shiny, and especially because they're square, And what you have is a kind of piece of pixel art, effectively.
And they're glass as well.
Yeah.
That's a funny thing with those like Roman glass mosaics.
Yeah.
They seem like they've got a characteristic of them, which is like cheesy, or
Yeah.
it's like it's so bright and graphic.
But then also, like, the typography on the tomb is sort of like cyberpunk. You know,
Yeah,
it's kind
that typeface, that font of the that says Giuseppe Brion on it, is groovy.
Yeah, it's groovy, but
It feels like that could be a typeface you could use for the title card of Blade Runner if you wanted to.
Yeah,
No problem. Like, or I mean, almost Star Trek Next Generation. Like it would be fine. Like,
but that's not really about eternity, is it? That's about
yeah, well, I mean, these guys made TVs.
Yeah, I guess
They made 70s cool TVs.
Well, you have literally got like a bit of sort of RGB pixelation going on.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I wish there was.
I'm not sure that was the reference, but
like,
it would be nice if it was.
I've been yearning to see like corporate idents and stuff in the iconography of here and more TV stuff, but they've not leaned into it at all.
Oh yeah. There's a nice grave. I was in Edinburgh at the weekend, and there's a nice grave there by someone who did radio stuff, where he's got like a big old wireless on top of the gravestone, like in
it's
in
something to be
limestone.
proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that's what they're going for here.
No.
No.
That's something that really separates Carlo Scarpa from some of the things feel postmodern,
Yeah.
but it's deeply. There is a thing where it's deeply serious.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
He wants to be eternal, like
Yeah.
of his time, but for all time.
Yeah.
He's not going to put Mickey Mouse columns.
No, he's not. Definitely not doing Mickey Mouse columns.
He's not going to bury them inside a giant television. Like, you know that long television they did where the screen cants up?
Yeah.
You could have two of those like leaning together as sarcophagi.
That would be nice, yeah.
I mean, I understand it's obviously something for a family and it's deeply serious. But,
yeah, it's a serious matter for them.
there's something else that's funny about the tomb. Which is, I didn't really think about this a lot when I went there, but it feels to me kind of transgressive also that various bits of it are made of wood.
Yes.
Like the outside of the sarcophagus on the sides is made of wood. They've got like big end plates
Which
of
are like
marble, and then there's concrete substructure dressed in marble on the bottom, and then it's kind of presumably there's a coffin inside, and then that's got planks screwed on. I mean, of some, no doubt some hardwood, and it's kind of done black, but it doesn't feel, glass, concrete, marble are quasi-eternal materials.
Yes, and also like materials for the exterior. I mean, the other thing is that there are like a lot of interior materials which are used. There's lots of polished plaster in the kind of inner bits of some of the areas, that some of the kind of walkways and things have got polished plaster inside, although they're technically outside, like there's no enclosure. Or there's another bit for the rest of the family which is a sort of pyramidal roof which has polished plaster on the inside, and it does.
This place, by the way, is maintained. It's kind of intensely maintained. It's not being left to the elements at all.
No, they have tidied it up now and then.
Between our visit together and your subsequent visit, they've cleaned all the concrete.
Yeah.
All the lichens have gone and the greyness has gone. Like, it's clean and white and new.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that brass thing, I think someone must literally be polishing the letters. I think there must be like a groundskeeper who's an old retainer.
Yeah, I guess maybe the TVs are paying for something. And then there's this sort of snaky
the tomb bit is set in the corner.
Yeah, it's the pivot of the L. It's like a big circle with the bridge in the middle of it. And then sort of decorously, modestly off to one side is the bit for the graves of all the people who've actually commissioned it, I guess.
And their descendants
their less successful descendants and various aunts and things, no doubt.
Yes.
And then the other big bit is this funerary chapel,
Yeah.
which is very clearly sort of set up for having a funeral in. And it has, like, one of the things it has is there's a very clear space on the ground in the middle of it, which is the shape of a coffin, which is obviously where it's meant to go on top of. I don't know quite how to describe.
Well,
what this is
we can start going around the corner. If we go around the corner, you turn around the view, and I've got to not look at the slides, otherwise I won't be able to remember what it's like.
Yeah.
There's the wall that goes into the rest of the cemetery on your left, which is high, and there's a kind of double wall there, which has got kind of like, there's a little garden shed and stuff inside there.
Yeah. There's a little maintenance bit.
And there's which is as monumental and concretey. And on your right, there is the tomb for the rest of the family, which is this long thing, a bit like one of the sarcophaguses, expanded massively, which you really have to duck in under.
Yeah.
Get down very low, kind of bow down, get into this dark little interior space.
And that's all concrete, but lined in dark polished plaster on the inside.
Yeah, also quite cool. You can duck out. There's a bit of grass, and you have a view down to this chapel, which is a square rotated 45 degrees, surrounded by water, which has lots of the kind of Carlo Scarpa concrete water channels and slides and things in it. There are other bits of detail that I cannot remember.
I think there's a sort of ceremonial route that takes you into the chapel where you cross over the water on these kind of stepping stones, which is a bit like, I guess, again, like this sort of symbolism, crossing over the water.
Yeah, I mean, he's done this trick like 3 times already in this thing. So.
I think of it as a bit like it's a sort of hypercube or something. It's like a cube that has moved into several different positions, and it's kind of created out of that.
It's got these windows which are almost floor to ceiling vertical, but thin, narrow, like slots, as if they were the columns supporting it inverted.
For me, this is definitely the part of the building that feels most like a computer game. These kind of like platforms.
So like you tread on one and it sinks into the mire.
Yeah, it does, because they feel kind of mechanical. I guess because of the extent of like how elaborated they are. Yeah. And then they also...
and something it has that's like computer games is... when you're designing things in a computer, it doesn't cost anything to make the shapes complicated and difficult to make.
No.
And when you're Carlo Scarpa, you don't care. No. You just make it as cool as possible. And that was very much the brief here. I mean, that he's responding correctly to it. This is what they wanted.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's these monumental, like wide stepping stones with slots between them that go into the chapel, which is a 90-degree, which is a rotated 45-degree rotated square with these tall windows, which sort of has another square rotated in the middle of it. No.
Yeah.
And has loads of cool stuff inside.
Yeah, the kind of rotation of the cube is used to create the spaces, so that you're kind of moving through these like diagonal dividing walls. Like the kind of threshold is created by the kind of corner of a cube poking out that feels like it's the same cube that's kind of rotated. Yeah. I'm getting a lot of like Rhino, rotate 2D, tick the copy box kind of.
Yeah, it's definitely
the kind
geometric, like generative geometry.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's almost too much to describe, really. But
like for a simple, small thing, there's an awful lot of things going on in it.
Yes.
It's got a really cool, like, stone concrete revolving door. It's got a round circular opening. It's got a kind of Otto Wagner white grill wall.
Yeah.
It's got kind of almost ronchon little windows.
Yeah.
It's got a weird, like, pendulum hanging thingy that you'd think should be a cross but isn't.
Yeah.
It's got a pyramid, like step pyramid ceiling which is at 45 degrees with another thing coming out of it like mini pyramid coming out of that, all in elaborated concrete. It's got a big brass, which is sometimes polished lectern.
Yeah.
It's got various different kind of expensive, complicated, rough floors which step onto each other. It's got a receiving place for...
It's got some little alabaster windows.
Yeah, which are again, like Galba plus...
Yeah.
I wish I could pronounce these things and not just maul the names, but I can't.
Is it Gala Placidia?
Something like that. That's got those...
The tomb...
Yeah.
Is it in Ravenna?
It's in Ravenna, yeah. It's
yeah,
round the back of the amazing...
yes.
Around the back of the amazing Basilica church thing.
Yeah.
With amazing... I mean, it's got amazing mosaics, but it's...
Yeah, these little alabaster shutters. It's got a special place for doing the holy water.
Yes.
There's
This holy water machine, it feels very 70s design.
The slides for this feature
Slightly, unfortunately, sharing a kind of an upgraded version of the design palette of automatic French public toilet of the period, but of a much higher specification.
The slides for this feature a rare cameo of one of my lovely parents operating various bits of the the architecture.
Yeah, I mean, we've missed other things. There are various bits of this whole complex that move.
Yeah, the main doors into this are covered again in polished plaster. There's also one which is the main door is a sort of slider made of concrete. Where they're kind of rolling on like a big brass wheel.
Yeah. Lots of this stuff feels like Myst. That would be like the computer game, wouldn't it be?
Yeah. Yes, it is like Myst.
Because there's also a thing of like wheels and wires where weights are suspended. There's like a weight, and then there's a wire wheel, and you can kind of turn it, and something moves, and then there's another wire that's kind of blocking a path.
Yeah.
Which feels very much.
Yeah.
Like it's trying to be that. Yeah, this thing of like a very heavy thing. Rolling, like bits of it do. Yeah, the notion that the stepping stone should move up and down isn't so ridiculous when the walls move on bronze wheels.
Yeah. When you go and take photos, what you end up doing is taking photo after photo of these crazy details, which are just everywhere. You know, here we've got like a randomly chosen one looking at the side of the building, and it's got this extreme cantilevered sort of rain canopy in front of the door.
Again, in the Carlo Scarpa zigzag concrete.
Yeah.
There's a kind of super complicated pyramid thing being inserted in. There's points where there's insertions into the concrete which are then gilded.
Yeah, there's this sort of Minecraft-like transition going on where the like shutters are punched through, and then you've got this kind of... I mean, this is voxels, isn't it? This is like voxel.
Yeah, or it feels like crystals of some strange material have been revealed.
What does it all mean?
So, what do you think about this? I mean, it is an incredible and unique, I would say, complex tomb complex, an extraordinary and unusual thing.
Yeah.
It's a strange project.
Yeah.
I mean,
is this a dream project or isn't it? It's
like I can be in moments where I feel that his architecture is always like rapturously wonderful, and then I step back and think about it, and
what
even is this?
The relationship of it to the little like village cemetery is almost a kind of parody, isn't it? The way that it kind of
it would not take much of a transformation to make that into a little village being like the Kureni in their village in the Dodecanese with their huge black castle looming over the little white village. Yeah. This is like the clunking armored fist of the overlord.
Yeah.
Forcing Atlantic Wall, forcing its way, enveloping Octopus like the charming, quiet village cemetery in its white marble.
It's also a big move to go back to the home village and do this, isn't it? To have the family have gone out into the world, they've won at capitalism. On like the world stage, and now they're going back to the little village in the middle of nowhere.
To make a massive monument to themselves.
It reminds me I was thinking, back in the days when I was briefly doing architect developing, a lot of the guys were from Romania, and one of the things that they would often do when they'd made a bunch of money was build a massive fantasy house in their
Yeah.
town or village that they came from, because it's like, I guess it's a nice place to live. Or whatever.
If you go around Albania, there are all of these. It's completely stopped now, but there was a period when they people who made money abroad built castles, miniature brick castles for themselves with like round turrets. Or there would be like two brothers and they'd make the same thing next to each other, same castle.
But not in the city. You do it.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere,
place where
in
you're
the
from.
cornfield.
Yeah, yeah. It's so it has a little bit of that about it. It's a totally
Yeah, they didn't build like a new library for the town. They built a massive monument to themselves. But it's a really cool thing. Yeah, anyone can go around. You don't have to pay to get in.
Yeah.
It's a super amazing, wonderful sculptural complex.
Yeah.
Redolent with symbolism of something.
Yeah. What do the symbols mean? I mean, the part of what's very striking when you encounter it is that the kind of like rich over elaboration and kind of ornamentation of everything is totally unlike a modern building as you would normally encounter it.
Yeah,
the craftedness of everything.
There is a tradition in ancient Italy of doing super elaborate tombs. I mean, it reminded me, when we went to one of the other cycling trips, 2 after this one, we went to like Chiusi, and there was that place where the Romans had destroyed this Etruscan tomb that was, what was he called, like Porcena or something, and he'd had like pyramids with spheres and chains dangling into the labyrinth beneath, so that which would articulate bells, making like the sounds, or all of those like sort of things that seem to be anticipating the Baroque, which are Roman tombs with sort of strange round towers and things coming out of them.
Yeah,
it's a strange thing to do at this point of time, the 70s.
Yes.
But are we just tripping over ourselves and not thinking this is a wonderful, amazing, unique thing?
Yes. Does it matter? Like, what's at stake with whether any of this means anything or not?
Well, my general theory with all the symbolism is it's kind of like a magic eye image in like if you focus on it, it disappears. The bridge can be like this, but as soon as you like go through, as soon as it becomes like words, it becomes so trite.
Yes, that's what I think as well. I mean, I think also...
like, I think part of the reason you want it to be like the Astrodome or whatever is because that's funny.
Yes.
Or, like, that's something which is, like, a better... Like, that's something which is more like a sort of self-effacing humour, whereas actually it's not...
But I think he does have a fascination with the miniature. Like, a lot of what gives his buildings such a strange quality is the fact that things appear which seem to be at the wrong scale. Like, I don't know if I said this on a previous episode, but when I was there with my dad, he was like, really feels like they built this at the wrong scale. Like, did they build this at like 1/10 the size it was meant to be at? Because there's all sorts of details which feel like they would be way more familiar if they were like 10 or 20 times
also,
bigger.
Also, like, there's places where things are too small to get in,
Yeah.
But that's all very much on purpose.
That's his fascination.
And something that makes the geometry abstract is that it's shifted in scale. There's so many shifts and transformations of the same pattern to different scales and different movements and geometries moving around.
What's the significance of the kind of staircase concrete edge that he has on everything? This kind of like voxel.
It's Carlo Scarpa referencing himself.
Yes, I think partly that.
I think it's like, oh, this is the Carlo Scarpa thing. I did it before. Like, this complex is a kind of greatest hits full of him bringing out references to his own work.
Yeah, I think that's
one of the things going on.
But why did he invent that in the first place? Like, what is it doing? What is it about?
Looks cool.
It does look cool. It sort of seems to me to be like about the idea of decoration, but while not quite doing it.
I mean, doing something like that, it is like the first decorations, those Mesopotamian and Egyptian tombs where they're kind of cutting false door into the facade.
Yeah.
Where you get that stepping in and stepping out. It's one of the first decorative forms in monumental architecture. But it also could be a bit like all these other people. But I think by this point, the reason it's that particularly rather than something else like it, is because it's self-reference.
It's his thing, yeah.
Which I think is a distinctive part of Scarpa late style.
Yeah.
Really not a bad thing. Architects have styles.
Yes. I think they become kind of...
No one goes like, oh, this Zaha Hadid building's all blobby like the other ones. Or it's kind of like... People don't go, oh, Frank Lloyd Wright. This is like another mid-period Frank Lloyd Wright building. It's got this formal play. You can't go, it's like this person's done something which has got elements that are similar to the other things they've done.
No. Yeah, no, I think it's... I'm prepared to give him a pass for it. I think he's allowed to reference himself a bit. I think you're right also that it's better not to try and think about what anything is meant to mean. It's much more to...
Because it's not just that it's... Once you turn it into words, it's dumb. It's a combination. Once you turn it into words, it's dumb. And it's kind of like... Also, the things that it's literally about, which is the celebration of these like rich people.
Yeah. Actually, not all that attractive.
I'm not even really willing to like forgive pharaohs for doing that sort of thing, because they were obviously such a bunch of bastards going around like, look, here's a big monument to all the people I've smashed in the head.
Yeah.
Look, there's a giant picture of me, much bigger, smashing people in the head.
Yeah.
And this is like, we won it. Look how cool we are. Yeah. But maybe I just got a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is true. I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, I think also it's that these things are designed to be received as like space and as experience rather than, you know, as a sort of liturgy or as you know, something in kind of words. You know, it's like lots of people who don't know anything about what anything in a church is meant to be or what it's meant to mean, nevertheless have a quite kind of meaningful experience going into kind of the sort of typical space of a cathedral.
Architects who go there, who I've spoken to, this gets like one of the most positive raps of anything anywhere in the world.
It shows how far you can push it.
Yeah.
You can push it a long way.
Like, everyone I know who's been here has found this, like, almost has spoken to this as, like, the transformative moment of that trip. Or like, you know, this is such a cool thing. Yeah,
we went there, when we went there together, we arrived just right at the end of the day and kind of experienced it in this sort of dusk sunlight. Very beautiful. Rather difficult to take photos in because lots of things are either looking directly into the sun or entirely in shadow, but very magical. Very magical, and the concrete looks really beautiful in that kind of light.
I preferred it when it was greyed and weathered, more weathered.
Yeah, it was a little bit nicer, a little bit more geological.
Also, tombs should be allowed to age even at least a little bit.
Yeah, it has to age a bit. Can't be too pristine.
How much is this a tomb?
Yeah.
And how much is that a pretense? So...
How much is it just...
Because there's things which are like... A lot of the symbolism is... Like, you can read into it things that are definitely deathy metaphors. Like, oh, I'm sitting in the middle of an island looking across the water to the dead.
Yeah. And there's a little
channel
which
links,
takes water to a little pool,
them.
2 little pools next to them.
There are all these thresholds. Things are crossing thresholds.
Yeah.
The tombs of the couple lean together.
Yeah.
There are metaphors that could be about the separation of life or death, or the separation of people from each other, or the relationship between the small and the monumental, which is also kind of like, oh, we become part of everything.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like in service of the death image, but it feels like an image of itself. Like it's so, I don't know. And some bits are just decorative. Like, what are the corners of the... So the corners of the outer wall, this like leaning in when you're on the inside concrete wall about perhaps slightly less than person height.
Yes.
Or all person height, which just sort of mean that you don't see anything small. The corners have got this complicated it's like a medieval knight's visor or something.
Yeah.
Corner piece with lots of holes punctured through it, which is just decoration.
Yeah. Just want to slightly dispel the
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool thing.
The sense
There's
of
also,
the Führer bunker.
when you like type it in on the internet, you really look through all the pictures that people have taken of it. Lots of people take a picture of this thing.
Yeah.
Which is incidentally sculptural.
Yeah.
And the service hut garden shed thing is at the same level of monumentality as everything else. Everything is...
For eternity.
Yeah. And the funny pavilion, why is it like a... It's got the vibe of like something with little like spider legs.
Yes.
And very heavy body that's going to crush you.
Yeah. It's almost like a water skater or something. Like
Yeah.
a little insect.
Which is very cool. But like, it's just cool, isn't it?
Yeah. There are lots of things which are very clearly images of like wholeness, eternity, these kinds of things. But there's also lots of stuff which seems to be about like discontinuity or like increase and decrease. Or, you know, like if
what are those kinetic sculptures about that really do feel like mist puzzles?
Yeah, or like even with the concrete kind of elaboration of the end of the big tomb bridge thing. You know, you've got these kind of stairs going up, stairs going down. You've got like something which almost looks like a little diagram of a pianola, you know, like a kind of player piano or something. Like up, down, down.
And they also feel like they're talking about erosion.
Or they're kind of, the lines of them sort of start, turn a couple of corners and then disappear again.
I think a lot of it's just to look cool.
Well, it does look cool, yeah. But it's...
it's
an image of kind of like... I don't know, like...
I think it's pure graphics.
Yeah. But it's a particular kind of graphics. It's like... I don't know. I'm not sure I have anything profound to say about it, but its effect is...
I didn't find...
It's sort of part of what makes it work is that it's if everything was as kind of solemn as it sounds when you describe it at the highest level, then it wouldn't work.
I didn't find you couldn't convincingly turn this into a memorial for an atrocity. Like
there's lots of play.
It's like a joke.
Yeah.
It's fun, but not.
Yeah.
Not too fun. Like it's about enjoyment and sensuality and all the stuff we've talked about before with him. And again, go back, like there's the Rossi Cemetery. Like people, the consensus amongst people I've spoken to is that they wanted to go and see the Rossi Cemetery. They didn't really like it, and then they really like this.
Yeah.
And I like both of them.
Yes.
But the Rossi Cemetery, I think for me, is the problem with it is that it does feel uncanny and dark and uneasy and has got an element of like mortality to it, which is one that you don't really, is not comforting.
It renders death as terrifying, yes.
It renders death as terrifying and like the obliteration of the self and the infinite.
You're aware of like the absolute irrecoverability of what's lost.
Yeah. He's kind of gone into... He's gone into the darkness.
Yeah.
In the sketches looks like something which could be like this. It could be something which is jokey and geometric and like a play. And then you're there and it's no, this is kind of, I think it's part of the reason that it hasn't been a great success in terms of people putting their relatives in it is it doesn't offer up a comforting vision.
No, not entirely. No.
This is all about like.
There are some kind of comforting images of kind of solidity, of like thresholds passing over. But there's also a lot of ornament which is, you know, ornament in its most basic sense, like having fun drawing things on the outside of other things. You know, like there's sort of sense of like flowing
19th century decorative frieze. Yeah, like decoration. which is only strange because of its period, but period is a real thing.
Yeah.
You should, if anyone gets an opportunity to see this, they should go to it.
Yeah.
Don't pass it up.
Yeah.
But talking about it saps my energy.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to talk about it anymore.
It's corrupted by language.
Yes. Perverted by language.
Perverted by language.
Perverted by language, yes.
Oh, what's that, Luke?
We've reached the end. Well, we can end the story there. So,
well, you've got the whole story actually, because you've kind of got that staircasey thing.
Yeah.
This is a man who designed very dangerous staircases, and was in endless arguments with people about not putting
handrails on.
I don't want a handrail. No.
Yeah.
Handrails are terrible. Polish everything really shiny.
Late in life, Scarpa made I imagine, much anticipated trip to Japan, which had always been like a great kind of dream resource for him. You can see in this project, like we just talked about, like the reflecting pool, particularly all the landscapes are like.
I would say in his architecture, he references the images of Japan.
The image of Japan, and he went there for real. And he went to, he went and visited things, and then
the sites.
Where was he? Was in?
He died in Sendai.
In Sendai,
which is not. I haven't. Have you been? You've been to Sendai. I haven't.
I have not been to Sendai. I'm told it's rather improbable that he decided to go there because there aren't an enormous number of attractions.
No, I think there's a reason that we both haven't. We've both been to Japan, and neither of us have been to Sendai.
Yeah, there's a famous Toyo Ito building, but which did not exist obviously at the time.
Yeah.
And he fell down.
He was staying in a hotel. And there was a staircase between the hotel and the under-hotel shopping mall, I think. And he fell down it and mortally injured himself.
Yeah.
And died in Japan. And his body was put into the Brion tomb complex.
Yeah, he has his own little tomb inside
tucked away, discreetly.
Discreetly tucked away.
He's
apparently buried standing up, wrapped in a sheet, which is a kind of medieval knightly affectation, apparently. And the grave has a big kind of brass funnel where you're meant to pour wine into it, apparently.
Sure.
It's kind of enjoyable.
Yeah, why not?
I didn't do that when I went. Was not forewarned.
One doesn't always have it to hand. That's very pagan, isn't it?
That is, yeah. His
graves tend to be very light on Christian symbolism. In fact,
this one is like pagan microchip. It's got these sort of weird, like zigzaggy lines coming out. It looks like
it's definitely someone who's been told. Yeah. Like I don't think he designed it. It's like someone. Can you do one for Carlo?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what this
thing.
Yeah. Looks like sort of printed circuit board in brass and marble.
Yeah.
But he must have left some instructions because you wouldn't have buried him like this otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's the...
He was old, but not mega old.
He was not mega old, no. He was in his 70s.
I think early 70s.
Yeah.
Mid-period architect.
It would have been interesting. What would he have done if he'd done another 10 years? Because he dies in 78. It's a real pivotal moment. Like that is sort
of his era was coming to an end.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in terms of what people were actually like, people were still doing kind of. Weirdly, I put him with like techie late modernism.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's not quite a perfect fit. But
people are basically finishing off the projects of the 60s and 70s, the big ones. Like you're going to finally finish the Barbican in about 4 years.
Yeah, the mega structures are finishing.
Yeah.
The sort of first flush of the high tech is finishing.
When are Sterling's like German projects? They're like early 80s, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not quite. His era hasn't finished, and I think he would have just continued in his era, right?
It would have been interesting because it feels like to this point, his particular kind of historicism, the stuff that people were doing in the 10 years after is like extremely ironized in a way which his is extremely not, or it's kind of I guess not like Aldo Rossi's necessarily, but it feels like
some people also are idiosyncratic. Like sure, you can see they're from their time, they are playing with their time, but they are genuinely an unusual person who's got a different idea, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
He's not just someone who's following fashion. I know I keep joking about his being groovy or whatever in the 70s. But he is genuinely an idiosyncratic character in the history of architecture.
Yeah.
Of whom many, but not all, of the best architectures are people who stand out from their time.
Yeah.
And he's one of those. So I don't think it almost matters what everyone else was doing. He's not like, we looked at Michelucci, who kind of was blown hither and thither somewhat.
Yeah, he's really able to the zeitgeist is always like creeping in and being
and sometimes
incorporated, assimilated.
And sometimes he's like being like an aging rocker in the 80s, putting on a white suit and doing some dodgy, and sometimes he's managing to do
disco guitar. Yes. Yeah.
Whereas Scarpa's, he doesn't do lots of things. The things he does are from his repertoire.
Though it's interesting. There are lots of things which don't feature so much in the kind of oeuvre. We might talk about some of these on the bonus. There's a relative paucity of actual like buildings or like things with real urban presence, because they tend to often be kind of hidden inside. But there are,
there are a couple, and they feel more of their time.
Yeah.
The bank building, wherever it is, has got.
Yeah, there's a Verona bank building, which I think we should do an analysis of on the bonus.
But to précis that.
Yeah.
It does have elements of it which feel more like they're kind of lifted from the architecture of the 70s than these projects do. Like there's details in there that there's nothing particularly in this which is of a particular period, whereas as is appropriate, a bank branch.
Yeah.
And there's that big office, like round office building.
Yeah. Anyway, we've gone on far too long.
Yeah. It's a cool project. People should
seize any opportunity you get.
There's so much to see in that part. Go to that bit of Italy if you have the chance, because you can. It's Palladio Villa country. You're not far from Vicenza.
Yeah.
Some very good food.
Yes. It's very easy to have a
There's
nice
some
holiday
unbelievably
there.
beautiful cities very close to each other. You've got
even
even between there and Venice.
Even if you don't go to Venice, there's there's
a superfluity.
Yeah. Yes, very much vola voyage.
You can see something cool every 15 kilometers there. Just rolling through the countryside, actually.
Yeah. Very, very nice. Anyway.
Lots of Prosecco.
Yeah, it helps, I guess.
Yeah. On a hot day.
Yeah.
I'm not,
it's
not my thing, but if I'm there.
It's literally getting dark in here because we've... it's the turning that way, that sort of season. I don't know.
The clocks are going to change soon.
Yeah.
It'll be dark immediately.
Yeah. So I think we should sign off. But thank you very much.
Thank you. That's it. We have finished the main bit of Scarpa.
On to something different next. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, those of you who are.
This is in... feedback on the films. What's not making sense.
That concludes that little kind of initial experiment. I think we might do it for the next one as well, but we think we probably need a bit of a review of how it's all working.
Yeah, we don't want to sacrifice. I think we're still a podcast.
Yeah.
Don't want to sacrifice the system working and being able to put stuff out for video.
Yeah, no,
but
absolutely not.
I think it's a very helpful tool. We also have to maintain, I think, the discipline of describing the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who are interested, there is bonus material for each of the architects or other topics that we discuss. Those are accessible via Patreon, which is a crowdfunding subscription service. There are links on our website or in the various bios on various platforms. You can also follow along with images and videos which Matt posts on social media. Our handle.
Very well done, Matt.
Yes, very.
I would say at the moment our video account has just started, so it doesn't have a lot of presence on the internet. So if anyone can do stuff, link to, tell people about, comment on, that will just get the news out there, because they're slightly lost in the giant pool of the internet for now. I mean, that's not the end. This is a bit of an experiment, but
it's
going to be very helpful to us.
It would be a big help if you're willing to subscribe, platform in various ways. The good thing about being on YouTube as well as on podcast platforms is that it's a whole new route of discovery, and that we're also finding people who wouldn't get to us in any of the other ways.
I'd like to think people have got like an unreliable and error-riddled resource out there dealing with some subjects that don't have lots of discussion. Yes.
To set our handle on most social media and things is about underscore buildings. I don't know if I said that. You can get to us at aboutbuildingsincities.org.
This is, I think, getting the record for our most rambling conclusion in history. Fine, so.
And that's the end.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And
goodbye.
See you
See you soon.
Bye.